everybody, what's going on? I'm
Hey,
joined
hey
by
guys.
Soro and Prince Brightstar. Thanks so much for taking the time out today to talk some Phantasy Star Online 2. And this is a live broadcast, so welcome everybody hanging out here with us live. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and that like button if you feel like we've earned it. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subs, and we're almost 50% of the way there. So thank you everybody who has subscribed for all these fantastic podcasts. Prince Brightstar, you're our kind of our big guest here today. Longtime PSO creator, been with the community for a while, and YouTuber. Links are all in the description. So I just want to say, hey, welcome to the show, Prince. Why don't you introduce yourself to those who might not know you?
Thank you very much first for having me on the show here. Yeah, I've been basically following the Phantasy Star series even since before Phantasy Star Online came out. So we're talking Genesis days, essentially. And ever since then, it's basically been my favorite game series in the world, essentially. And so through the years, I've created different pieces of content. I've worked with different communities like PSO World back in the day, and yeah, as of right now, I'm mostly a Twitch streamer. And actually, I've got my own podcast as well, which we usually do on the weekends. But yeah, I've been with the community for a really long time, and I'm glad that yeah, I'm just glad that the game finally came over here to the West, even though it's not necessarily in exactly the same shape that we got it in on the Japanese side currently.
Now, we do know that's their goal, is to bring it to parity with the Japanese, like, obviously client in that regards, even though I still don't think that they're probably going to join those two communities, even though that would be pretty cool. What was your impression of pretty much the roadmap when they announced that, just actually like a couple weeks ago?
The roadmap actually seemed fairly ambitious, but I think that as long as they get urgent quests out, as they're initially planning here, I do know I've had a chance to dive into actually some of the files, but we do know at least at this point that all voice work up until episode 6, chapter 2 is done because of that. But basically, a lot of the stuff that people thought was going to be stuck because of things like COVID and things like that actually are not being delayed because so much work was already done up ahead of all this. But beyond all that, the roadmap, when we didn't see challenge mode on there, I was like, okay, are we going to be getting that in episode 3 instead? And in fact, that has happened. We got that just a couple of weeks ago. This week, we got the new challenge mode, Strike, which in this particular case, actually, we're finally getting confirmation that they might not actually be able to make everything happen in terms of content, specifically because the Cougar NX is missing from that, which was a collaboration between Sega and ASCII for their Border Break game. So go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just I didn't want to actually cut you off, and I was like, anyway, it's hard when we don't have cameras on voice. But was there anything else you want to add? Because I think we got a killer show, and I'm really excited to learn more about what you're excited about.
Yep, I think yeah, we got a lot coming up in the game, and yeah, let's go ahead and kick this thing off here.
All right, guys.
Let's see.
Again, we've got the links to Soro and to Prince Brightstar in the description of this video. Go check them out. Subscribe to them. Follow them. Check out their streams and even the Prince's content and his podcast. So, first real question, because we got a big show for you guys lined up today. As typical, we're going to dive into the news. Being that this is now a live show, if you guys want to join in and you're listening live, just come hang out in Discord, join into the green room. We'll grab you. We'll move you into the up next. We're going to have community conversations here kind of after the news and the discussion. So I'm really happy that we've got people in the green room waiting right now. Also, we will be responding to questions and comments in chat. So Jermaine says, Texas Ninjas represent y'all. Yep, howdy. So thank you very much for joining and watching the show live. And hopefully you guys enjoy the new kind of layout and aesthetic. So we've got some stuff planned for y'all on that. I do want to know, before we dive into the news, I do want to know from Prince, what out of the offline Phantasy Stars is your all-time favorite?
For the offline Phantasy Star games, that's going to have to be Phantasy Star and the Millennium. And even more so now, based on kind of everything that's actually playing out in the game. We can kind of get into this a little bit later, but there's been a lot of symbolism going on that's been implying that what's going on currently in PSO2 is actually a prequel to the Algol series.
Oh, that'd be really kick-ass.
That'd be interesting.
That would be so nice. I love it when they relate these things. Hey, have you ever played Dragon Quest? Obviously, with Phantasy Star. I'm assuming you like other Japanese RPGs, so I'm just curious. Dragon Quest, yes, no?
Yeah, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, the Lufia series back in the day. So yeah, I've run the gambit of a lot of other RPG series, but Phantasy Star has just really stood the test of time for me.
Yeah, the reason I ask is like because especially when these things relate and they connect, when Dragon Quest does it, I enjoy those Dragon Quest games even more so. 11 being connected to the first three, like the original three, I thought was really a nice touch. It doesn't have to be so overt, but it's just that idea that you're a part of this bigger universe that is all connected and to some degree. So I'm really excited to hear you talk about kind of the foreshadowing and maybe they will connect like that. So on that note, Sora. I've got yeah, it is late. I've got Kingdom Hearts on my mind for some reason. Bring Sora to Smash. That's my pitch. But what do we got on the news? You got some news for us today?
We have a ton of news that we haven't covered because we missed yesterday. But let's see here. First thing up is we do have the Urgent Quest and Concerts calendar for July Part 1 on here. So go ahead, check that out, pso2.com. Figure out where your time zone is, do your conversions accordingly.
That how they have it, and I have it up on the screen right now. It drives me nuts. Like it's like trying to read this thing is trying to decipher this map, and I gave up on trying to figure out a way, especially with time zones, to try and communicate this to anybody else because you have to like, hey, are you looking at this? And in the U.S., we'll get ready to do some math. But go ahead, I've got it up on the screen. We've got
Yeah.
a bunch of new ones coming. Let's go ahead and dive into them because we got a lot of the different urgent quests. I'm curious as to Prince Brightstar's take on these different urgent quests. So, mining-based defense operations incursions, that's coming back. But Baron Blossom, Destroyer of All, I don't remember seeing that one yet in North America. Am I wrong?
No, I don't remember seeing that one either.
Now that one's the Profound Darkness one.
Yeah, it looks very, very darkness in this case. So it says, attention all members of Arc support system Dark Falls Gemini has formed an unstable plane above one of the landing craft. And your assistance is urgently needed. They seem to have manifested as a large structure and are intent upon damaging our feet and hindering our progress towards what we can only be the source of the evil and corruption. We must defeat Dark Falls Gemini and a chance of achieving our foremost goal and ensuring the destruction of the profound darkness. Next up, we got Menacing of the Sea, Render of Serenity. I've seen this one. I don't know if we've seen this in NA, but I know I fought this guy in Japan.
I think they did this one last cycle.
Okay.
Or the end of
last week, I
July.
think.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
Or
that's
the end of
coming
June,
back.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I remember I haven't fought him in NA. I just remember fighting him in Japan. We also have the virtual planet battle training. So the Vegas still the clowns with chainsaws that really disturbs me. And then they've got the mining base Operation Despair that they're rocking for the first kind of part for these urgent quests. Wild stuff.
Yep. And make sure whenever you do find a concert coming up, grab your concert buffs, your music buffs. Those are always good to have, especially if there's an urgent quest immediately after. Let's see what's next. Mission Pass Season 5.
Oh yeah.
So brand new Mission Pass coming out.
What do you guys think about the Mission Pass system that they've added?
So I think it's a lot better than what Destiny's is.
What about you, Prince? Go ahead, Zora.
But it's the way that they have it, where there are certain tasks you need to do to get your 8 stars to get the next season rank or whatever, is interesting. Like some of them are just kind of off the wall.
Yeah.
And I would say it's a very fair mission pass because as long as you put the time into it, you're going to make back the star gems that you spend to get the gold version of the pass in
Mm-hmm.
the end.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that you can get the gold pass with star gems until probably about 3 weeks ago. I thought you needed the premium pass to do so.
I have a bunch of them. I just haven't decided to use them. Obviously, we'll talk about this after we get into the news. My PC decided to uninstall. The tweaker decides not to work. So I'm just gonna have to be an Xbox player until this game decides to come out on Steam, or they fix whatever this issue is plaguing PC. I talked about it on the channel, but we'll cover it. We'll talk a little bit more about it here in a little bit. I've been just
Yeah, I
kind of
know they did.
stacking those things up because I just haven't ever, like, especially when it relates to stars and certain things to unlock stars. So I would naturally unlock maybe, for, like, I would say maybe 60 to 70% of the mission pass, but I would never fully get the whole thing done. I've really struggled with games fully getting mission passes or, battle passes completely done. So I haven't really felt this like massive need on actually utilizing those until I guess I see something that I absolutely have to make myself look even more ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of cool cosmetic things on this new one though.
Okay.
Some cool capes or mechanical looking capes, a lot of really nice looking cast parts in my opinion. Um, and then of course your consumables and a couple new emotes, the air guitar emote and the kick emote on this one as well.
Okay. What else we got?
Yep,
And
and
Go ahead.
this one's also repeating some of the ones from the first season. So those PC players that weren't on the servers back then are finally getting a chance to catch up and get some of those items they weren't able to get before.
right.
Well, that's nice. I
And
like when they do that.
continuing with the mission pass, there's actually a campaign with the mission pass right now, beginning 7/8 and ending 7/21. Let's see. If you reach tier 4, 8, and 12, you get different rewards for it. Each of them are a try boost 100%. And then make an exchange at the Mission Pass swap shop between the end of Maintenance 7/8 and the beginning of Maintenance 7/21. And you get 20. Geez, I can never get this correct. You get 120 SG ticket. My gosh.
Come on,
Uh,
man. Come on. You can do this.
Dude, words. Um, let's see what else we got here. There was one thing I was looking at.
Are we talking about the Arcs Boost rally?
No, there is something with where is it? The other campaign that's going on. If you clear the story quests,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you clear, or let's see, this begins 7/8 and ends 8/4. If you clear Final Goodbye from episode 1, which I do believe is the last part of episode 1, you get a try boost 100% reward. Let's see, Reason for My Birth from episode 2, another try boost 100%. And The Reason Behind Your Birth from episode 3. Those of you who have missed the Dreamcast
Oh,
evolution device,
yeah.
start working through those episode stories, man, and you can get your Dreamcast.
This makes me feel so much better because I wasn't able to get the Dreamcast. I like with the issues with the beta, and I already had things scheduled, so I was like, well, I just can't finish off finish off the Dreamcast. So I'm so happy. Now I need to go get on my Xbox and just basically watch cutscenes, play Cutscene Simulator for a while. So I can
Yep.
see if I can't finally get myself that Dreamcast because I see it floating behind people's backs, and I'm a little jealous still to this day.
Little Jelly.
Little jelly. Nothing wrong with it.
The third campaign that we got going on right now is a Quest Trigger distribution. And between July 8th and August 7th, immediately after completing, uh, what are we completing? You have to have created a character PS2 NA prior to the beginning of maintenance on 7/8. You get the Destroyer Baron Blossom Trigger for free.
Nice.
So just a nice little quest trigger boost or that you can go and have some fun with. Let's see. Then we also have a fourth campaign. Holy campaigns.
It's season of campaigns.
We do have an ARCs boost rally going on as well.
All right. And just to say howdy to chat, we've got Ranger Smith. Welcome to the show. And Undesirable to Undeniable, I know who you are from Twitch, says, you just answered my question as why I should go through the story. And
Get that Dreamcast mag.
that Dreamcast mag out. And Ranger Smith says, perhaps I'll check out this game. Well, it's free, Ranger, so please feel free to jump in. All right, guys, I think that's going to be what we wrap up with the news. I'm sure there's little stories here and there. Be sure to check out Prince Brightstar's channel and Ginger Prime for more detail on the news itself. Guys, Prince, is there anything that this summer, like when we look at just these news, when we look at the different campaigns, what's your overall read on the state of Phantasy Star 2 right now?
So if we're talking about NA, I would say that kind of the big overshadowing thing is the whole issue with the PC installation, how the Microsoft Store just keeps, for whatever reason, uninstalling the game and then reinstalling the game. It's a major issue. And one thing I did because I did the original installation through there, and I didn't initially go through the ArcSlayer stuff. I had actually turned off my Windows Update because the Microsoft Store is directly tied to that, so that actually prevented the issue from even happening. But now I've gone through the ArcSlayer installation, so I'm clear on that. And for anybody that doesn't know, the ArcSlayer installation I'm talking about is basically they have a program called the PSO2 Tweaker, which basically lets you install the game without having to go through the Microsoft Store. You only need the Microsoft Store at that point, then just to launch the game, and that's it.
For me, unfortunately, right now as it sits, is the tweaker didn't work and the game uninstalled. And what I hear is that that's also an issue, a known issue within the Microsoft Store, not just for PSO2. Like I've heard people with Minecraft Dungeons just having the game uninstall itself for no reason that makes like any kind of sense. And in and of itself, it just feels, for me, I'm just speaking for myself personally, having played the game, having been in love with the game, having still being in love with the game, and then just kind of getting gut punched, it is a little bit demotivating. And I've shared those kind of experiences with other games. Like, okay, and I'm not going to sit here and like somebody was like, just reformat your Windows PC. And I go, no, I'm not going to do that. They can fix this on their end. I'm gonna play it on Xbox, and thankfully I have that as an option. And the conspiracy theorist in me is saying, like, are they just telling me to go buy an Xbox? If I didn't have an Xbox, like, what other option do I have? Because reformatting PC, maybe it's not going to happen again, but it's already this is the second time it's happened to me. Like, I feel like I have a certain sunk in cost that I'm willing to put into a game, and like when it's like something like this, my default mindset just becomes, okay, you let me know when you're ready. I'm not going to sit here and get mad at you. I'm not going to sit here and, be one of those content creators that's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst and I hate it. And then you see them playing it each and every week. Like, do you, that
Right.
in and of itself drives me absolutely at the wall. Soro, how did you take the news when you heard that I was having PC issues?
Dude, I started looking into things on the back end because I haven't had any issues. I might have had one or two issues where it just wouldn't launch, did a repair, and it worked.
Yeah.
Um, I know my buddy Chris, who we've played with together a couple of times, he's had a couple issues where it wouldn't launch, or it did end up uninstalling itself, or he couldn't get it repaired or anything like that. But then ended up going through the Xbox app on PC and was able to install it fine through that.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. That was kind of like my last. I was like, okay, tried this, tried the tweaker, tried the Xbox thing, and it's like, okay, fine. I guess I'm just gonna be a little bit behind in my leveling, just because like I play downstairs on the Xbox, but I won't play the game around the kids. and
Right.
that's obviously due to I guess for lack of a better expression, porn, the hentai that can randomly pop up in the game, and it's like so that kind of for me the PC was the perfect thing because I tend to like okay here I am, I'm playing the game. I don't have to worry necessarily about kids just kind of walking through the room and all of a sudden somebody has decided to illustrate a lovely lady wearing nothing
Right.
and so it's like that's something that I just have to separate from my, just because it's so weird because it's not like it's really a part of the game, but it's something that can happen and does happen, and even if it gets removed, it's still something that I have to be conscious of when playing. And so that's just something for me. And I'm like, I can't. So I'm really, really rooting for the Steam, and I'm really hoping that's somewhat tied into like this August update. But I'm trying not to give my hopes up because they haven't announced anything yet. Prince
Well,
Brightstar. Oh, go ahead, Sora.
I wouldn't doubt that it would have something to do with the August update, considering that's also what they put in, right at the beginning of the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they put the schedule out, they're like, "Hey, we're going to do this in August, and extra things to come, or
Right.
extra platforms to come." So I would put. I'm not going to say I would put money on it, but I would bet that they would probably put Steam or something like that on there
And then
during that same time.
RS Gaming says that I can actually disable symbol arts on my end. I'm probably going to do that so that I can play a little bit more Phantasy Star Online 2 downstairs. I wasn't aware that I could disable them, and I do love them. Like, I do love just the expressions and how much that brings to the game. And it's, for me in this case, like, it doesn't bother me whatsoever, but it's like, it's such a small percentage of it that it's like, it feels silly to say, and being that's why I never even looked to see if I could turn it off. But thank you, RS, because I'm gonna go do that so that way I can play some PSO 2 downstairs on the weekend and see if I can't finish off my Ranger. I was hoping on this podcast to be like, and Ranger is 75, baby, and here we go. But this week's kind of thrown me for a little bit of a loop. Prince, when we look forward, obviously to August and essentially probably what we're thinking September for episode 5. Is there overall, like between Phantom and Hero, is there a specific what we're calling Scion class here in NA? Is there some a class or a job that you're looking for more than any of the others?
So what I'll say is I did start on the Japanese server, so I'm more up with all the classes, and actually they have a third class coming called the Etoile, or as is rumored, the Superstar,
Superstar.
for North America.
Oh, I like that name.
But it's basically it's a class that one can it has several unique things about it that make it one of the more unique classes. For example, it has an ability called Damage Balancer, which basically, if you get locked into like a combination, you're not going to go down as easily. Initially, it starts you off with just saying you take 80%. I think it's 80%, maybe it's 90% less damage than your normal hit would give you. Now, what I do is I combine that as a subclass for my main, which is Hunter, and I add Automate on top of that. My health pool is essentially as much as how many mates I have remaining in my inventory.
Nice.
Hunters represent.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
So also with the tool, isn't it true that it uses a wand, but it cannot use arts, or it can't use the magic end of things?
Techniques. That is
Yeah,
correct. Although, also at the same time, keep in mind there are weapons out there that are considered all-class weapons, which do allow you to use techniques. From my repertoire, what I use is a boot called a Silk Fultz, which gives me access to Shifta, and then also a Summer Beach umbrella, which gives me access to Anti. And those are really the only two techniques I ever need to have in my repertoire.
Okay.
Okay. So you say your main is Hunter. What made you choose Hunter as your main? And is that your main on both Japanese and NA, or how did you go about doing it that way?
Hunter is my main on both NA and the Japanese servers, and it's really kind of what I learned to play in the end. I initially was a ranger, just because that's what I mained back in Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Universe. But then I realized that I just wasn't liking the gameplay that was coming from Ranger. Partially because I've never been that good with first-person, third-person shooters, and so I made the switch over to Hunter. And aside from a stint with Hero, I've mainly been a hunter through most of my career with PSO2. Aside when I went to level up the other classes to get titles and such like that.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm about to finish off Ranger, and then I'm going to move over to Force, and then after that, I don't know what I'm going to play after that. But from a leveling perspective, I like to level all of the jobs, all the classes, and that's just a matter of, in my mind, it's always just kind of a function of time. Enough time against it, and eventually that's going to be done. However, with the accelerated schedule, I'm trying to make sure that I tell myself to pace myself, because I don't need to get everything up to 75 or 80 and eventually 90, 95. Like, I know that level cap is increasing at an accelerated rate, so I'm just like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep plugging away, having fun, doing what I can do, and not worrying about trying to get everybody up to cap, because it's just going to be, it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, especially when
Yep.
like I don't have endless hours to play the game itself, and so I'm happy that I've got my hunter. I love my hunter, and the problem I've struggled with is I went to play a little bit of gunner and I didn't enjoy it, and I think it was because I was trying to play it like a hunter, and there's still work that, like, I'm sure I can get it figured out. And then I'm personally looking forward to Force a lot, because I've always liked casters and things like that, so I'm looking forward to going and being my little space wizard, to have some fun with it, and see how how I can develop it, because I see some people just crushing enemies in the field as a Force. I'm very excited about playing that, and I might end up just kind of being that. Like, I might finish Force and be like, I'm good, we're good to go, and just enjoy the game overall from that point. But we'll have to wait and see. Are you guys ready? I'm going to open it up just for any other topics or anything you guys want to share before we start bringing in in the community to come and share their thoughts on the state of the game and anything else from this summer.
So, Prince Brightstar, are there any other games that you are currently playing, like when you're not playing Phantasy Star? Like any other MMOs that you're in, Final Fantasy or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or any that
my
you're
second
looking forward to?
my secondary is actually Final Fantasy 14. Obviously, with the launch of NA, that's kind of fallen to the wayside as of
Mm-hmm.
late. But
Well, and
that is my secondary.
the delays with 5.3. What do you play in 14, and what servers?
I am a paladin, and I am on. Oh wow, what was the server called again? It's been that long. Um,
Do you know the data center?
Balmung.
Balmung. Oh yeah, that's. Oh wow, like when they took Balmung away from what is it, like Aether or whatever, like,
Hmm.
man, like I know that, like, the changes they made Shadowbringer such a impressive launch, that was just handled like so well. When I look at the launch of Stormblood, just the different issues that we had because of Balmung. Balmung crashed, and all of a sudden it's like we can all get through the queues. Yeah. Oh man, what?
I remember Raubon's wall and Pippin's fence.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. That was a rough time. And as always, and that thing that just drives me nuts, because we've learned this lesson over and over again. I guess there are people who just haven't, but we see, like, time and time again, like when these games launch, people are like, oh, I'm having struggle with, like a handful of hours, and I get when it goes beyond that, especially because people are excited, they might take the day off work to play this game, and then they can't play the game. Like, I get that. I get how frustrating that can be. But at the same time, I'm always like, if you're going to schedule a day off, make sure it's also the next day. Don't limit yourself to this one day, because there could be issues. Give yourself a little bit of time, so that way, if you're like, well, it's not working, I'm gonna go see a movie or something like that and come back. That way you're maximizing your fun. But overall, it's awesome to hear you're a 14 player, and even better that you're a paladin, because paladin right now is incredible. I just got my relic. I just returned to 14, after taking actually with the issues that PSO2 caused. I was like, F this. All right, I'm gonna go get caught up in 14, make sure that I'm ready for 5.3 in August. So that's what I've been playing. Sora, how about you, man? What else you playing?
A lot of Destiny.
Yes. Oh,
All of
dude.
the Destiny.
Destiny just, I
Uh,
feel like it owes so much to Phantasy Star.
Agreed.
It really
Agreed.
does, and plus you consider what this image came out a while back that kind of said, okay, here's everything that's in PSO, here's everything that's in Destiny, and at the bottom of this chart you got this thing that says mid mission cake shops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
No, I haven't seen that one. But that
All
sounds awesome.
All right, we're gonna
Thank you.
bring in our some of our community. We got Mudslide, aka Chris. Welcome back. You were here last week, Chris. How was your week been? How's your week in Phantasy Star going, dude? And then I don't know if you follow Prince Brightstar, Chris, but you should be able to check him out with the links, man. Welcome back to the show, Mudslide.
Hey, thanks. My week in Fantasy was good. I hit 2 separate classes to 75 this week. I finally got my Braver to 75, and I got my Hunter to 75.
Nice.
From what? Like, where did you start the week?
So my Braver was at 65, 66, and my Hunter was at 40.
Well done, man.
Thank
Well,
you.
My goodness.
well done, Prince Brightstar. You just sent me a link. For is this
Yep.
what's this chart that I'm looking at now?
That's the chart I was just talking about.
Oh my gosh. All right, we're going to pull this up on screen for everybody to share. So
Oh man.
let's see here. I'm going to switch over to desktop. Thank you very much for this link. All right, let's do this thing. This is the Destiny and Phantasy Star are the same game chart. Who made this? I want to make sure I give them credit. Okay, I've zoomed in a little too much. I don't know who made this, but we're gonna dive through it and feel free to weigh in on it. So there are 3 playable races. Okay, this is just the original Phantasy Star. Humans, altered humans, and robots. And in Phantasy Star, humans, altered humans, and robots. What do you feel about the race selection, guys? And this is to Mudslide and to everybody here. Like, what do you all feel about the race selection within Phantasy Star and in Destiny?
Well, I know in Phantasy Star, I wish they would have brought back the Beastman.
Same. Yeah, 100%. I wish they would have brought back Beast instead of Doomman, 100%.
Would have been fun. I would have loved to have also seen like maybe one other race, like a reptilian race.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely always like to have more options. Yeah, I think it's hard, obviously, as the game goes on, for them to introduce races, and that's why within 14, when they've done it, it's been really, really quite surprising. There are 3 classes with each with a specialty. In Destiny, you have Hunter, Titan, and Warlock, and then, oh my gosh, and then in PSO, you have Hunter, Ranger, and Force.
It's actually the same thing.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
yeah. This is
Oh my
I
god.
haven't honestly spent like this thought on it. There are 4 core playable areas. Holy crap. Okay, so it's literally looking at like you have Earth, you got the different planets, and then you got the 4 different zones from PSO with overgrowth bullet sponge bosses at the end. Yeah, that's so true. A cloak guy in town who identifies unknown items. Lobby soccer.
Oh my god.
Rudimentary character creation. And I don't think you can change any of your character stuff. Blade dancing, floating shoulder robots. That's one of the things that with like Anthem, and I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I was always like, Anthem needs a mag system. There was so much useless junk and there's like nothing to do with it. And I love that it's like, if nothing else, even if you're not going for a pure build, like if you want to dump like a kind of a floating garbage collector, like give it that. Generic colored polygon item drops, chilling in the lobby, single use unique special attack. This goes on for, okay, we're almost done.
The
Armor
loot
slots.
drops.
See here.
Sorry.
No, the loot drops are the generic colored
I never thought
polygon
of
item
that.
drops. And it's, are they on the same color tier? No, because we don't have reds. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, this is insane. Chilling in the lobby, single use but expansive colonies mysteriously disappeared by the darkness. Armor slots for perks and upgrades, and mid-mission cake vendors. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. That
is amazing.
that is incredible. I'm going to need to bookmark this link for myself because I'm going to return to this when anybody is like, because it's so interesting. And I'm very curious about all y'all's thoughts here. Start with I was going to say Chris Mudslide in this case. When it comes down to it, like, do you run in? had anybody experience, and when you're trying to explain Phantasy Star to anybody, like, do you have anybody who's just like, I've never heard of this game whatsoever?
Yeah. So I started with Phantasy Star in general when I was really young. I played the original like Phantasy Star and 2, 3, 4, and then eventually, PSO 1, PSO 2, the card game, whatever. So when I have friends that I'm like, hey, I play this really cool action RPG, especially back in the day when MMOs weren't as big of a thing, they're like, you play a game online that sounds like online Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, it kind of is. And
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it really, any MMO, I guess, is kind of like an online Dungeons and Dragons in a sense, as long as you're fighting monsters and, getting rewards and doing a mission from end to end. But yeah, I've had some friends that were very confused on what, like, the point is. They're like, well, what's the point? I'm like, you hit max level and you get the best gear and you just kind of have fun. What's the point? That is the point.
The point is to have fun. That's all you need.
And
Exactly.
it's such a winning formula when you look at so many action RPGs and how that's become the lexicon, and how the RPG systems have integrated themselves into every popular game in existence. Like when you look at Fortnite, you got XP, you're leveling up. Like that's a known concept and known quantity, where I remember that being kind of this, when they first started introducing it, it really made me excited because I was like, oh yeah. But then there's the addictive side of it that my personality comes out. I'm like, I gotta grind that XP. It's like, am I actually having fun? I don't know anymore.
Personally, I never realized until now how much Phantasy Star impacted my game preferences. Destiny to me is almost like my perfect game. And I never realized how close Phantasy Star was that, because back in the day, Phantasy Star, especially Phantasy Star Online 1, was my perfect game. So I never realized how close my ideal perfect games actually are.
It boggles my mind, and I'm curious as to Prince's thoughts on what I'm about to say. It boggles my mind that here we are, 20 years later, 19, 18 years later. I forget like how old PSO launched ago, but anyway, we'll just say 18 years later, that we still have games come out that haven't learned what Phantasy Star, the original, did so well right out of the gate. It's like somebody invents a pizza and everybody's like, this is incredible. And then some guy's like, all right, I hear that there's this amazing pizza over here. I'm not going to touch it. And then they're like, I'm going to call this a pizza. And everybody's like, that's not effing pizza. It's like that level of like, whether they're just disconnected or they just miss the mark so bad. But it's so fascinating from the perspective that PSO knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, right out of the gate. It's so telling that when Microsoft announced that it was coming to the West, it's like, how many games have drawn inspiration from this franchise, and yet people haven't heard of it? And that just boggles my mind. Prince, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, a lot of it does come down to the fact that a lot of people still don't know that this series exists, even though, it's only 2 days younger than the Final Fantasy series when you consider Japanese release dates. And a lot of it, I think, does come down to the fact that, at least in the West, it was a little bit more restrictive and didn't have as well known of a name. Plus, a lot of the players that you see today in PSO2 also came from Phantasy Star Universe, and the game kind of got a really bad reputation from that particular version of things, to the point whereby the game was like a year behind the Japanese updates when the PC PlayStation 2 servers went down. And then one of the memes that kind of came out of that era, out of that era was the name of Segak, which was a reference to the Kuwabara company within the game, who basically they were known to help you, or rather they created weapons that were supposed to be similar to other weapons that existed in the game, and then they would always have this little moniker at the end that said like maybe or supposedly or
kind of.
and it kind of
it totally is, but really
a joke of how poor the North American game was. And I would say, at least for PSO2, it's had somewhat of a better launch than the North American version did of PSU. But there are still things missing from the game. But at the broader side of things, some of the other part of why people don't know about the series as well is because there have also been other games that have come out for the series. There was a compilation that was released on the Sega Saturn that we never got. There were several Game Gear games that we never got. There were 8 text adventure games that came out on the Japanese. I think it was called the Sega Net back in the day.
Oh man, yeah.
Which
the
we
Sega
never
channel
got
we
until
had
they.
in the NA, but yeah.
And then on top of all that, the other thing that really helped out with brand recognition over in Japan was the fact that back when PSO launched over there, there was barely any kind of internet over there aside from dial-up. And what the head of Sega at the time did was they basically said, okay, if you get PSO, we're going to pay for you to get internet service. And that really helped get people online over there and playing the game.
If only that would happen here.
Yeah, if you get PSO2, we're going to run fiber directly to your house. Oh,
Please
where do I
sign me
sign up? Sign up. Hey, Mudslide, are you good to hang out for more of the show? I just was like, I'm gonna go ahead and bring in our other community folks. We've got My Reality and RS Fighter. Thanks, guys, for waiting so patiently, and welcome to the show. This just is evolving into a very fascinating conversation, and I figure I'd let anybody else weigh in they want. Sora, while we wait for My Reality and RS Fighter to recognize that they're actually here, would you go ahead and share your thoughts on pretty much that? Oh, actually, before you do, Luke in chat says, I hadn't heard of it till shortly before releasing over here. And that's incredible. Luke, I'd love to know if you're still in chat, like, what other games do you typically play? And let me know, because I think PSO2 is so important right now, in my opinion, that it needs to get as much brand recognition as possible, because I think it's going to have a future, whether they continue to evolve PSO2 or at some point in the next 5 years, 6 years, they decide to actually release maybe a third one or something like that. I think that the more brand recognition, if that is the case that it has here in North America, means the chances that we won't have to wait 8 freaking years to get whatever follows up this game. So, what are your thoughts there? And then I'm going to go to Prince, and then we'll just kind of go round table.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff just going on with it right now. I mean, I've loved the game and the franchise for a long time, and just glad to see it here. I just wish they would get their act together and figure out what is actually going on with it. Now, I did see earlier today that there was a tweet out that they were having issues with Ship 2, and those were resolved, supposedly. I haven't logged in to take a look, but I might do that after we're done chatting up here, just to see what's going on with it. There was some kind of congestion issue or something that people weren't able to log in, or were getting kicked out or something.
Prince, do you want a PSO3 sometime within the next decade?
I think I would, but I think I kind of need to preface that with sort of some of the stuff that we're seeing on the Japanese side currently, because basically the story as it is about to end on the Japanese side. We recently got Chapter 5 of Episode 6. Chapter 6 is effectively the end of the story, and then there's going to be a final battle against a profound darkness-like being, and this is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about symbolism. But if you look at the end of Episode 6, Chapter 5, Shiva, the character in that, has a shadow behind them. It looks exactly like the profound darkness from Phantasy Star and the Millennium. And then if you look at the final MPA battle that's coming, one of the attacks it uses is an attack that looks exactly like the Black Wave attack from Phantasy Star and the Millennium. So once again, that goes back into what I was saying, that it seems like everything that's going on right now is essentially a prequel. And one of the theories I've had going for a while now is that we might actually be ending up on Algol in the near future, although not Algol as we knew it from those games. I'm talking millions of years before those events ever took place.
I like that. I like that so much. What
And
like what
aren't
would that be in your mind a new game, a new starting point, or would that be like a whole new like here's chapter 1 through 6, and do they keep with the core and then all of a sudden we're on Aggle and setting up what a settlement? What do you think?
So what I would, the way I'm thinking they're going to play this is kind of like it's going to be Phantasy Star Online 2 expansion name.
Oh wow.
that would be interesting.
And
I could see that.
part of the reason we know that this is happening is several months ago there was a job posting for Phantasy Star Online 3, but just because it said Phantasy Star Online 3 in the job posting didn't mean it wasn't just going to be an expansion.
Yeah. RS, what do you think about PSO3? Do you want? What do you think about what Prince just shared?
I'd like it, but right now I feel if they announced it next year, it would kind of kill PSO2 here in the West, because like they're still just trying to establish their foothold, and they're not in the best light right now with the PC issues. This mission pass is also kind of disappointing for a lot of people. It's a lot of recycled content that we've already gotten here in the West as well. So it'd be cool, but at the same time, I don't think it's the right time.
Oh yeah, like I would say it was definitely not the right time to announce the follow up. However, I think when we talk about moving from game to game, there needs to be. Let's say that day comes, and I'm curious. I'm gonna get all y'all's thoughts here. We'll just go round table. When that day comes, it's obvious that if there is that cutover, we saw it with Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. I don't think they did a good job. We've seen it with Final Fantasy 14, 1.0 to 2.0, where there was a hard cutover, and I think they handled that perfectly. I think if they're going to do PSO3, they have to answer the question in the announcement of why to continue to play PSO2. And I think maybe that's glamour. Fashion is very huge. Imagine having and unlocking the fashion that you've already collected in the third one, thus like grinding out fashion here has a value in that regards. That would be something that I would think would be imperative, but something they have to answer. Let's go to Chris Mudslide. What do you think about that? Like, what kind of transition would you like to see?
Well, I want to say first off that I think Sega needs to realize that there's a hardcore audience here for Phantasy Star in general.
Okay.
I think that they need to start putting some money into advertising and actually expanding the brand here in NA, because if you think about it, in my mind, Phantasy Star appeals to the Star Wars nerds. You get light swords, and you get all these things that are more sci-fi than fantasy. And there's a lot of people that don't like fantasy; they prefer sci-fi.
Okay.
So I really hope for one that Sega puts some money into, advertising the game, showing the hardcore players that they actually care, because I think the hardcore player base alone can carry this game for a long time. And on the topic of a new game, I'd be okay with that, but I almost personally, because I agree with Prince, I think that's where they're going with it based on the story, because I played, as an Ever Fantasy Star. And it would be really interesting to see that actually come to fruition and happen. But I almost wonder if it would be another kind of spin-off game like Universe was, where it's Phantasy Star, but just something different and not an actual mainline PSO title.
You think they would do a Universe 2?
Maybe a Universe 2, or maybe...
Seemed a lost Chris.
Yeah, lost you there.
All right, we'll go to my reality. My reality, dude. What are your thoughts on pretty much anything we're talking about? What's your favorite beer? Just like it's a random shindig. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess y'all's two main topics when you're just talking about the state of PSO2 and or 3, being a brand new person. Yeah, that would be a little weird if you just get into PSO2 and then you see an announcement. You're like, okay, so how much do I play of this one before I go over? But well, one thing I was thinking about when I'm only on my third week of playing this game now, but one thing that was kind of nice is this is a JRPG type game, and it has its crowd, and so people who like the Final Fantasy series would probably like Phantasy Star. And the one thing I'd been kind of seeing a relation to is the people who like World of Warcraft. You got, retail WoW and you got WoW Classic.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people who just, enjoy that game, they already had it in their mindset, especially when expansions and big patches come out. You kind of float back and forth, between the two games. And in some ways, I think Final Fantasy 14 and this game have a similar type thing to where, as you're floating between major patches and expansions, you can kind of bounce back and forth. And then this game has the added bonus of being free.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can pay for the subscription later if you wanted to. But that's how I've been kind of enjoying it. Like, I'll be playing this mostly. And then, come August, when Final Fantasy comes out, I'll, kind of set PSO2 to the side for a bit, play through Final Fantasy until I get up to what I feel is my stopping point. Then, probably go back. So it's kind of a nice flow back and forth for me. I think I said last time I was here, I have a tendency, every few months to kind of float between a few games. So that's kind of nice, being a new player.
I think that's a good
to all that.
healthy. I think that's a good healthy approach. I mean, just flat out. I think playing a handful of games as opposed to, I guess, what is it like, like one shotting one game for like years. All of a sudden, you're like, I just always have seen those like that kind of mindset like end up usually in like, especially when it comes to content creation, end up in just unnecessary drama. Like, oh, they made this one small update and that seemed to have ruined everything. It's like, okay, we got to just tune you down a little bit, buddy. Like, here, there's this whole world of awesome games. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, that was one big thing is, years ago, you only got like one big release like
So
every like once a year or once every couple of years. So you had the tendency like if you played an ARPG or MMO style game, that was the only one you played.
That's
Now we got
so true.
now that we got so many coming out, I mean, like August is jam packed full of games. It might be hard to pick which one you really want to dedicate your time to. You even got, new ones like New World coming out
Oh,
and
no,
stuff.
Well,
I
no.
got some
Stop
breaking. I
right
got
there.
some breaking news for
That put a
my
damper on my day today.
that or
Oh, it
I
did?
don't,
I didn't see that.
dude. So yeah, well it's like either Ginger Prime, check out the video, or
Yeah.
just let me know if YouTube's not like showing videos. The push to spring 2021 for
Ouch.
New World. And okay, let's
Amazon.com ended up putting on there May 25th, 2021 as the game release date.
Somebody in one of my videos was like, Amazon.com has said this is the release date, and they've been wrong 3 times now. So it's like
Right.
Amazon.com or whatever.
But they keep saying the 25th. Whatever month they keep saying the 25th. So I wonder if there's a significance.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just like that's what they're shooting for. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm personally happy they delayed the game. And I know there was somebody, man, oh my gosh, somebody left me just like this like brutal comment on that video. They're just like they're just pissed off, and I'm like, imagine how pissed off you would be if the game came out and it sucked.
Right.
Like they're like, I get that you're excited. They're like, I just like heard about this game in May. I'm excited. I pre-ordered it, and now this happens. I was like,
Well,
oh my
you'll
gosh,
still
like
be
they're
able to play in August.
yeah. But I was like beyond that. I was like, man, like if you're new to these kind of games and these big games, that like this is actually could be a really good thing. Because the game's going to be more complete and hopefully have a better impression. When you look at the concept of what happened with Crucible, hands down, they unreleased Crucible. They unreleased it. And I think that's the right choice for them to make because Crucible was lacking. And even if it was okay, I'm so tired of this concept of we'll fix it after it's out. And that's one of the best things, like to circle this all back to Phantasy Star in a way. Phantasy Star is also an 8-year-old game, but it's the most dadgum complete game I've played, like at like day one NA, than any game I can remember in the last decade. Like just when we were laughing about Destiny and Phantasy Star, the original, and how similar they were. like I remember like Destiny coming out and be like, yeah, like there's just not a lot here. My expectations have changed with time, but that's oh my gosh. RS, have you been following, or has anybody else here also been following like New World and that development at all?
No, I haven't. My focus has been Fantasy Star.
Prince, how about you? Like, is it? I'm just kind of curious as if it's been on anybody's radar.
No, it's not for me. I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, I hear people either really like it or really don't. So it's like, yeah, give it more time. If like, come out, release it right. So that would be my same philosophy if they announced, hey, we're working on PS3, and oh, by the way, got delayed. You know, the hard part with with another thing with Phantasy Star is, well, we've heard them continue to push things, but like, I hope that if whatever they do, whatever they decide to do, if it's an expansion or whatever, we get it day and date and go from there. All right, let's see here.
And we also get a no, this is not just going to be a Japanese release. This will be a global release.
Global, yeah. That's what makes me nervous about with Fantasy Star, just because of the track record. It's like, okay, yeah, it's coming today, and then it's like, my gosh, I can't believe 8 years. I can't believe it's been 8 years.
Well, that's one of the things. Like, what is it? There's like a lot of hype for Fantasy Star at the start of like the release. Like day one closed beta had, I'm looking at the Twitch numbers now, it's like 20,000 viewers. Right now it's got 400. So like the hype's definitely died down for it, but it's not like the player base has. Definitely the game's in a lull right now because we're a 1 month away from new content, and most people are 75, got their gear prepped. But I would definitely say that PSO 2 has a good Western influence right now, but not enough. So I would love to see them build up more. Someone like said advertisement, but like even if they did what a lot of games do right now, and they do like some deal with Twitch, where it's like, oh yeah, you do this and you get 4 AC tickets,
Twitch bounties, or like, yeah, and I think beyond that though, bringing it when it comes out to Steam, I think that's going to help out dramatically as well, because a lot of people have just said, let me know when it's on Steam. I don't want to deal with the Microsoft Store. And I can't blame them, especially like I couldn't blame them before. Now I'm more on their side.
I'm going to bet it's going to do the same thing that the Tweaker is doing, though, and is just using the Microsoft Store as a launcher.
Well, it's like what Steam does with Mass Effect. They go third party through Origin, but was that they didn't tweet it out, but they responded to someone yesterday saying, as soon as possible, look out for our social medias. So it's definitely in the works.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, and maybe I'll be able to get back on that. Because yeah, I'm just gonna try for the Steam edition, because I've just done troubleshooting. Like we said this at the top of the show. Like there's a certain amount of grace that I'm willing to give, and at that point, I'm not gonna be mad. I'm not gonna sit here and become anti Phantasy Star, because I love the franchise too much to be that kind of guy. But I'm gonna say, just let me know when you're ready. Like you let me know. I'm not going to sit here and keep polling. I've got other games that I can play, and it works perfectly fine on my Xbox. And now I'm just wishing that Xbox xCloud, it was on xCloud, so I could actually just stream it from my PC. And that's essentially just from that convenience factor. But I'm totally going to take your tip, RS, and turn off the simple art so I can play it downstairs on the Xbox and not have to worry about it. And then we still have like Aurora on in chat saying, I'm waiting for it to come to PS4, PS5. What do you guys think about the chances of the NA version coming to the PlayStation?
Not until next gen.
It's going to be a while.
Probably not until mid-year next year would be my guess.
I think it'll be next year, PS5.
What about you, Price?
It really depends upon what kind of deal Microsoft actually did with Sega. But there's also the question of if Sony is even going to allow it on their platform, because I know there was the whole thing of that they didn't want players on the PlayStation Network to play with other players for some time. I don't know if that's still going on or not.
That isn't, thankfully. They have finally embraced crossplay. They had a change of the guard over there, so that like Minecraft is crossplay now. Minecraft Dungeons that's not fully crossplay yet, but they're bringing that to crossplay, and that's going to be a part of PlayStation. So we shouldn't. The PlayStation
Final
is
Fantasy
no longer
14 here pretty
14 soon. As soon as we get the Xbox like launch, whatever. Just waiting for that day. It's like as more and more of I think the writing's on the wall when we look at like what players want, what's good for gamers, is like stop living in these walled off gardens, because essentially like when you look at kind of I like the fun part of the console wars, like it's kind of fun to meme. The memes are great, like when they showed off the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, like the refrigerator, and then like Cell from Dragon Ball Z, and just like all of that stuff. I love that aspect of it. But when it comes down to the console wars, like when people are like actively like, nah, like I don't care. Like just play the games where you want to play the games, and that's it. And it looks like, is this the tweet? It's 2020, and there's a Phantasy Star themed quarantine billboard in my home. I can't imagine anyone explain this to my younger self. Okay,
I wanted to bring up the advertising for a moment, because they actually are doing some advertising for the game. That surprised me to see something like that.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I like that a lot. And tweet.
I wanted to let you know also that the exclusivity deal for Microsoft is a 1-year exclusivity deal.
I wish we would get to a time where exclusivity deals weren't a year, but they were just 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, Epic did that with Borderlands, 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end up coming down to, okay, what feels more comfortable to you? Everything's going to end up tying in together. I mean, PlayStation, you'll be able to play any Xbox game on. Xbox, you'll be able to play any PlayStation game on. PC, you can play it on anything, or play it on either one. Like, it's all going to be, okay, what are you more comfortable with? Do you like playing on PC more? Do you like the feel of the Xbox controller more? Do you like how it's laid out?
I think
that's all it's going to end up being.
I think that's going to help out first party a lot. And I bring up the concept of Halo. Halo was so dominant, and I still enjoy playing the game. But when you look at what really is the mind share, and it's Call of Duty. And the reason is because Call of Duty is on every platform. Of course, they're in your face every year, which I find annoying personally. And I'm just not playing Call of Duty anymore. But ultimately, I'm just like, these walled off garden restrictions I think they made sense. I think they're making less sense with each passing day, because it's, when you go just look at the numbers, when you just look at, like, it is just a function of math and data analysis. Third party dwarfs, like, they're making billions of dollars, billions. And then you go and you're like, what's a couple 100 million? Nothing. Because, and the only thing they have at their advantage is that they're just not set to one console. And so I wonder if we'll see that, and I hope that we see that with first party. I know it's getting a little off topic. I want to open it up to anybody here for anything that they want to share. Let's start with Prince, being kind of our guest. Also, again, guys, go follow him on Twitch and on YouTube for his content and podcast. Prince, is there any final thoughts, anything you want to share before we kind of just do roundtable and wrap the show?
Well, a couple of things here. One, I'm still hoping we're going to get like a Halo collab at some point. I'd love to get a Sangheili costume in the game.
Would be cool.
I like my Xbox jacket. I rock that. I look hideous, but I love it.
But the other thing I would say is I also understand kind of why Sega decided to do things this way in terms of the content release, and in not essentially throwing North America into all the content at once, because there are a lot of systems in this game,
Mm-hmm.
and having all the additional things like Dark Blast, having crafting, and all that other stuff, it would just be too much on the players. And there are other players out there already that say there is a lot to the game to begin with, even with what already came out for episode 1 to 3. So I think Sega did at least manage to strike a good balance in terms of the content, and it's just going to be a matter of how much is still going to be missing once everything is said and done.
Well said. Well said. RS, let's go with you.
The game's great. I think this month has been its weakest this last couple of weeks, especially with this new mission pass and this latest AC. There was no real like hype around it compared to, like, let's say the Konosuba crossover. And then this mission pass has a lot of people bothered because it's recycled content that we've seen in NA, and some of it has been from fresh finds. So people are getting things for free that people paid real money for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely think this month is going to be very slow for PSO because we have the new content coming up. And so like their AC and things fashion wise and this mission pass have turned off a lot of the hardcore people just for now until we get that new episode. And as for it becoming crossplay on PS4, PS5, I don't think it'll happen just because Sony doesn't play nice. And while they have been playing nice, I think it's only because the demand for exclusives has died down a lot.
Okay. Mudslide.
I think the game's in a great place right now. I mean, if you, like you said it earlier, this game is like the most complete game played in a long time. And I agree. I think there's 2 games worth of content realistically. Like a normal JRPG or even MMO might be 2 games worth. You know what I mean? There's so much to do. So I agree with Prince as well that the way they did it was the right way to do it because of a lot of systems. There's a lot to learn, and if you add in crafting and all this other stuff, people are going to get overwhelmed, quit your game, and they also don't want to sit through it. 2 hours, 3 hours of tutorials. So I agree that
it's like, how do I play this game? Well, after going to university for 5 hours, they'll let you finally explore this game, and you're not going to remember anything that they taught you from the tutorials.
Yeah, exactly.
Menus the mini game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the game's in a good spot. Honestly, I've been playing it more as this new patch gets closer, just because I'm excited for the new content, and I want to have everything ready for the content because I haven't played it as much as I think everyone else has because I've been so busy. But I'm so ready for next month to come and new content and just dive into it head first and go crazy at it.
All right. My reality.
Yeah, there was kind of a lot we went over, but yeah, my thing, I just kind of like, just being a new player. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit older, so I don't really mind, really understanding how to play a game since I have limited time. So when I go into a game like this, I'm like, okay, enjoyment's great, but I kind of put efficiency above that.
As an adult, I totally understand. It's like, I'm here for efficiency. I'll have fun later.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my thing is like, I don't mind, spending X number of hours, figuring out how to play the game, and then, because in that way, in my mind, it saves me a ton of mistakes that, I could have played if I'd been playing for hours or days after that. So, yeah, the only thing I guess I would have to figure out that, yeah, since I'd heard like there wasn't really a huge amount of crafting and other things in there, my only disappointment on it was I was wondering like, okay, well, I got all these 7, 8, 9, 10 star items and all that. And I was like, oh, you can desynth them, and I was like, oh wait, no, that's not in the game yet. So it's just like, okay, well, I need to figure out what to do with all of these now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I've got an inventory full of this stuff across multiple characters, just waiting to desynth at this point.
Well, that was my thing. I could understand, like, I don't know, maybe the 6 to 8 stuff and all that stuff, but once you start getting a huge amount of 10s, I guess to 13s, like that's like 13's the highest, right? I was like, okay, like would it behoove me to like, okay, I need to just kind of be patient and hold off on those, because yeah, I had that same mindset. Desynth is somewhere around the corner, and I guess my final comment on y'all were talking about the cross-platform stuff. Yeah, I used to be a pretty big advocate of exclusivity on certain things. That seems to be more so for like single-player games now. But for really large like multiplayer style games, I guess in my thought it doesn't really make as much sense anymore, because each large game you have that's going to draw an audience to your console or the PC, that's literally in some ways like free advertising for, your console. So, if you're playing on PS4 and you finally get this, then, that just gives PlayStation another opportunity to say that, like, okay, well, you're playing that game, here's all our other list and all that. And yeah, if Sony does something weird saying that, nah, we don't want to do it, I think you're just shooting yourself in the foot at that point.
Soro.
Just excited to see where they're heading with it, with the roadmap and everything. Just waiting to jump in to all the new stuff that they're bringing into the NA side, that we know we already have over on the JP side. I don't know, just excited to play some more. Probably gonna log in either later after we get off here or sometime tomorrow and play around a little bit and see if I can level my fighter up a little bit.
Nice.
One thing I did want to bring up though,
Yeah.
is that they are now doing ship transfers.
Oh yeah, we missed it in the news. I skipped over that, which is great because I know people were asking me about that back in the day. So yeah, now you can transfer ships if you either want to get it on ship 2 or you'll want to get the hell off ship 2. I think that overall with the population, it's definitely more stable. So I'm not seeing like massive, oh, we can't play on the ship because that's where all the content creators are or something.
Yeah. Prince Brightstar, you said you were on ship 1, correct?
Correct. And something else I'll note that we didn't bring up in news is also that they announced that the shared ship is actually coming once episode 4 releases.
The what ship?
It's a ship that's dedicated to both challenge as well as battle mode when that releases, and it allows players across multiple ships to play with each other.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which is great because of the challenge mode lobbies right now are dead in ship 1.
So before we wrap, Aurora says, I get a lot of people instilling a lot of classes saying, or insisting a lot of classes saying Hunter is the only subclass to use on JP server, and it gets a bit annoying. Guys, any thoughts on what Aurora is commenting on right quick with Hunter subclass?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Bud.
Well, I for a while was part of Night Arcs on ship 1, which is like supposed to be one of the premier guilds, quote unquote, because they were huge in Japan. And when I first joined, it's like, hey, you need to play this class, and this class, and that's your only option. And I'm just like, what if I want to play something else? No, you can't. Sorry, we won't accept you. So play with them for a few weeks. No heart hate to them. They're nice people. They're cool people. I just don't like that mindset of you have to play this or we're not playing with you. Because what if your mix of subclass and primary class is what works for you and that's the way you play best? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely, I've always I felt like I'm at war with meta mindset or meta adoration. And I've always felt like meta is best used when it's conserve you. But if you're not good at that and you're better at this, like overall, I'm going to take where your most enjoyment is, because you're going to work harder and you're going to be better at that because you enjoy playing it, as opposed to like, oh, we need to make sure that, these are the 3 things that people are allowed to play. I wouldn't worry too much about it, especially if you're playing with a group of friends. If you're getting more into that more professional driven mindset, like I would honestly just say, listen to what the leaders say or choose not to be a part of that group though. Because if we are sitting here saying, this is the raid team, this is what we're doing, and these are our requirements, like you either have to choose to decide to do that or not. And ultimately we go from there. With that, we're going to wrap up the show. Thanks everybody in chat for hanging out. Thanks everybody for joining us in the video form. I love your faces, and let us know what you think about the live content style as we develop out this podcast series, as well as these podcasts here on Ginger Gaming Radio. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, all the amazing stuff with the social media. And with that, we're going to wrap up and just wish you guys all the best. Hopefully you don't have PC issues. Hopefully everything's working out nicely for you. But until next time, for Ginger Gaming Radio, my name's Brian, and this is PSO Radio. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you.